like to welcome you today to our Celebrating Resilience.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Celebrating Resilience.
Welcome to Celebrating Resilience.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for joining us. We're really grateful.
And very much want to welcome everyone to this terrific event.
And I want to welcome everybody and thank you for joining us today.
We are thrilled to have you here today with us.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us at our first ever luncheon event. We're calling this event Celebrating Resilience, and I think you're going to see why. The city and our country has just lived through an incredibly challenging time, and we're still in the midst of those challenges. It's always a challenge to raise children. It's always a challenge to raise teenagers. Our clients, primarily Black and Brown families and youth, have been impacted by the pandemic in ways that many of us can only imagine, and you're going to hear about that this afternoon. But we're really here not just to highlight those challenges, but to celebrate how resilient the parents and youth are that we serve and how resilient our staff is as well.
Resilience to me is waking up every day and continuing to push forward, to fight hard, even against all odds.
Celebrating resilience means to me helping youth and family develop resiliency.
Celebrating resilience is taking my hat off to the many clients that we serve every day, recognizing their accomplishments, their strengths, and understanding that they have a desire to be different and better and stronger.
Celebrating resilience means that we've been able to help our clients succeed, help our clients achieve, help our clients get to where they want to be with their children, with their families. And oftentimes that's going to involve, as I said, clearing hurdles and clearing obstacles that might be very difficult for them to do on their own, but as a team, as advocates, we're able to help them with that journey and help them get to the finish line.
But before we jump in, I want to thank our entire board of directors, also a very resilient group of people who have helped us raise money for this event, who have brought in guests to this event. And I'd like to thank our presenting sponsors, Cobre and Kim LLP, Winston and Strawn LLP, and Jeffrey and Regina Kessler, and our champion sponsors, Shiva and Tarek Faruqi, Penny Windle and John Klein, and Lowy and Danberg. At CFR, our clients are primarily parents and youth in the boroughs of Manhattan and Queens who are challenged by poverty. It is very, very difficult to raise children. I think we all had that lesson brought home to us, even more so during the pandemic. It is very hard to raise teenage children, but most of us have many resources to do so. And most of us do not face systems that tend to punish us instead of support us, and that tend to demonize us instead of celebrate us. So at CFR, when we work with parents and youth, with parents, we are trying to avoid anything related to poverty, placing their children at risk of going into foster care. And if they go into foster care, we try to minimize or prevent that. And when we're representing youth, we are trying to prevent them from being incarcerated and to stay in their homes and in their communities. Because both foster care and teenage incarceration mean poor outcomes for children. Usually a cycle of poverty is repeated, and worse things as well: homelessness, incarceration, higher rates of mental illness. We piloted a unique model at CFR that is now being replicated nationally. We have an attorney and a social worker work with every client, no matter what brings them into our door. And we were the first agency in the country to hire system-impacted parents as part of our legal teams. You're going to hear from 3 of those parents tonight who interview our special guest. We call them our parent advocates, and we're very, very proud of the role that they play, both in celebrating our clients and in teaching us every single day. You're going to hear about the child welfare system, which we call the family regulation system. And you're going to hear a little bit about the juvenile justice system, which we tend to call the juvenile carceral system. Because while those systems on paper and in the press and in word are supposed to be about saving and supporting, in fact, both systems tend to demonize clients, tend to punish clients, tend to investigate and prosecute clients, and separate clients from the people that they love most. And as you're also going to hear, they impact poor Black and brown families far more often and far more harshly and far more severely than they ever impact people who are white and who are well-resourced. Our model is being replicated, and it has not only saved taxpayers millions of dollars since our founding in reduced foster care and carceral systems, but it has also made sure that children and youth can grow up with their families in their communities. I wish we could hear from the more than 120 staff who make this work possible, but we don't have that time this afternoon. So I'm delighted to turn it over now to 4 of them to tell you more about the work.
We've had some doozies over the years, and we've had one client, Ms. J, who was a challenge. She was very frustrated, angry for a lot of reasons, but mostly I think because they did not respect her. And they talked down to her and they demoralized her. But we're happy with the outcome. She finally was able to calm down enough to kind of work through the case as opposed to just attack it from, out of anger, and able to successfully have her child returned to her. And she's just one of our greatest success stories now. She's doing amazing, and her life has turned around because of our holistic practice.
I think that was a great example of, the support for each other was truly needed on this case, and on many other cases where you're just sometimes, able to, walk into someone's office, whether it's virtual office or real office, and just be like, what is happening here? What are we doing? How can we address, work with this client differently? Do we need to work with this client differently? And I think that it's great when you can just bounce ideas off of another person, or you can just vent. I think having another person to just really, assess the case, talk about the case, vent about the case, share the case, and share the outcome. When it's good and when it's bad, just to share that those moments of, where it's really happy moments, but also to share and work with the client through the not so happy moments.
Right. And on that particular case, we actually had a third person. We had a parent advocate. So it really took a village to turn the case around with the client's hard work and tenacity. And so, holistic practice is just amazing. And we get a lot done by having a team of people helping these clients.
Anastasia, it's always a pleasure working with you. I can't wait to see you in person too. Take care.
Yeah, have a good day.
You too.
Curtis, I think you would agree that a lawyer alone really is not able to understand the complexities that our clients are dealing with at that age. Would you agree that that's really one of the biggest impacts that social work group makes on the case?
Absolutely. And I think the great thing about CFR's model is that even though, we come from different schools of thought and different educational tracks, the ultimate goal, I think we're both in agreement with, right? And that is getting the best outcome for the youth and the family. But I think what CFR is great at is understanding the totality of the youth's background and taking all of that into consideration.
in order to get to where our clients need to be at the end of a case, I mean, it's a two-road approach because there's the legal aspect, but as you and I both know, there are so many factors that are playing out in our clients' lives that the legal aspect alone is not going to do it. And that's, again, where having a social worker on the case and working with our client, working with our client's family is so critical.
I've seen how sometimes, the social worker has had to kind of play interrupter, right, with a family member who wanted a different outcome for the youth. And the youth, again, since we represent the youth, we kind of have to work with what they want, right? And so sometimes the parents' goals were in conflict of that. And so, while the attorney works with the youth, the social worker sometimes plays interference.
There is a strength in numbers that our clients appreciate. And I really think it has a lot to do with realizing that they're not just dealing with an individual and realizing that there is a team behind them and that there are multiple people that they can call or they can reach out to. And I've worked at other organizations where it was a single layer approach to representation. And I've seen the difference. I've heard the comments that clients have said to me, to my colleagues, and these are comments based on the fact that they felt supported and that they appreciated the manner in which we fought for them and how we advocated for them.
Having different ideas helps to hopefully have a better outcome, right? Taking everyone's ideas into consideration.
And, I also want to say that our team model goes beyond the attorney and the social worker. When we're involved in a case, we're supported by our great paralegal staff. We're supported by our investigator who is available to assist us on cases. In addition to our family advocates, the attorney staff and social work staff really are just kind of the tip of the iceberg. I mean, it's really a full team. And when we need our team to go into action to support and to help our client, it's really all hands on, so to speak.
So the holistic approach, I think, is an excellent way of working with families.
I've been on the board of CFR from the beginning. I was the founding chair, and over these last 20 years, it has been amazing to see CFR grow into the organization it is today.
I'm on the board of CFR because I wanted to put my my skill set towards something I really believed in. And it is amazing. I don't think there are many organizations out there that are comprised of people who truly believe in what they do.
I'm on the board of CFR primarily because I was introduced to it by a staff member at CFR. I've stayed on the board at CFR because it is such an incredibly well-run organization. I've had experience with many nonprofits, and I've never met one that's been run more professionally than CFR.
I'm on the board of CFR because I want to try to make a difference in the lives of families who are struggling to stay together. This is particularly important in communities of color, which lack the resources to defend themselves. And I'm proud to be a very small part of CFR's efforts to make that difference.
When I learned of CFR and its mission to keep families together and to keep children out of the foster care system, I realized this was an organization I wanted to work with because I do view it as having a real impact on keeping families together and keeping kids out of the really potentially very damaging foster care network.
I'm on the board of CFR and proud to be on the board of CFR because they're pioneers in the work that they do. They are leaders in the field. They were pioneers in the interdisciplinary model that is the foundation of their family defense work. And they really lead the way, I think, for all providers in this space.
Every parent should have the opportunity to raise their family under the best circumstances possible.
I am delighted to introduce and welcome Dr. McCall Roz, who is a health policy historian and physician. McCall is the author of 3 different books and numerous other publications, and has won awards for some of those books. Today, we're here to have her speak to us about her work in the child welfare field, and notably her book called Abusive Policies, which is directly related to the work of CFR and our advocacy on behalf of Black and Brown families and youth who are impacted by primarily the child welfare system. So we're delighted to have you, McCall. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me here today, and thank you for the important work you do at CFR.
I'm happy to say that you won't just be talking with me, you'll also be joined by 3 of our parent advocates.
Would love to know what your take is on the impact that parent advocates have on the child welfare system. There was a report that just came out that showed parents who have impacted experience or impacted by the system themselves. When you integrate them into the system in a role to assist parents navigate, it makes for better outcomes. I would really be interested to know what your take is on how that does impact the work.
I think the role of a parent advocate is incredibly important in navigating the system the way it is. And I think, who better understand the system than the people with the lived experience who've been through this. And it's a huge asset for parents who are facing the same challenges now, and also as a bridge between service providers, between attorneys, and between the agencies of the state. My first interest in getting to know the child welfare system stemmed from my work in Philadelphia with a community action group called DHS Give Us Our Children Back. And I heard the stories of women who were impacted by the system and how they organized to help empower other women who were facing the same issues. And it was an amazing system of mutual aid and support. And I was really inspired by what can happen when it was primarily mothers, when mothers help other mothers, when women come together and support each other in parenting. And really, this communal approach to parenting is one of the things that is so missing today, and is one of the things that's leading the child welfare system, because we are each parenting in an island, in a bubble, and parenting is so hard. And when we struggle, then it seems as if it's our fault, rather than we don't have enough community supports to lift us up. And if we had all these community supports, we could all succeed as parents. And I'm saying that also as a parent of 4. Parenting is darn hard. And we need to be parenting together in a communal way to support others. And how do we do this in a country where people don't have access to childcare? They can't afford to pay for what their child needs. They don't have respite care. They don't have health care, or they don't have access to all these things that children need. And coming together is such a powerful way. So parent advocates make things a lot better, but it shouldn't be their only job. It should be, we are all responsible for fixing the system of oppression that regulates and polices families. Until we fix that, I want to uplift the work of parent advocates who are making so much impact in the lives of all those who are affected by this system.
And I think we experience the current family regulation system as in some ways wanting to get a pass. Because they're asking for some advice from system impacted parents, they get a pass on really looking at some of the coercive, historically racist, currently racist systems and interventions that they have in place. Dinah or Hope, do you have any questions you want to ask McCall?
You said understanding history to envision the future. And I would like if you would be able to connect the dots between the civil unrest in the 60s, the war on drugs, Brown versus Board of Education, and how white fear plays a role in the discussion about the current child welfare discourse on deprivation and deficit.
And I think, we can't think about a future without coming to terms with our racist pasts and the racism that is really baked into the child welfare system. And what is this child welfare system, and where is it coming from? it comes from the belief that children are worthy of protection, of legal protection, of intervention. And this wasn't ever true for Black children, right? Black children were enslaved, separated from their families of origin. We have a history of discounting the meaning of a Black family, of the ties in a Black community, and the mother and her child. And child welfare interventions and services were primarily initially targeted for white families. And many cases, Black children were barred from accessing some of these services when they were useful. And when they became more of a way to police and regulate families, that's when they became more of a service for families of color. And that was a process in the second half of the 20th century. And it is also closely tied to the war on poverty in the 60s, which became the war on the poor. By the 70s, fixing poverty is so unpopular that politicians and policymakers go to great lengths to say, oh, children are not doing well at home. It has nothing to do with poverty. It's about child abuse. It's about parents making bad choices. They have money to buy a fridge, but not to take care of their kids. Somehow there's always like this blame that parents have money for something else, but not for kids. Today it's the iPhone, as if, the money for an iPhone could pay for a whole year of feeding a kid, right? So, we always say that this idea that parents are making these bad choices or not caring about their kids, spending money the wrong way. And that is why child neglect is such a big topic. So instead of thinking, oh, parents don't have money, kids can't thrive and eat, it's translated into, oh, these parents are no good in parenting. This is child neglect, and we have to intervene. And this really comes to head with the war on drugs, when this became their scare about crack babies, which today we know was kind of a completely racist image of women who use cocaine during pregnancy, and that there was really no evidence of harm to unborn babies. In fact, most harm to children and families was caused by the coercive interventions. Moms who were sent to prison because they violated technical reasons of parole, moms who were prosecuted for miscarriages and leaving their children at home without a mother because they went to prison. These are real harms versus imagined racist harms of the crack baby scare. And at that time, people were really putting into words this idea that Black women and Black women who use drugs are not worthy to be mothers, and their families are not worthy of protection. And this wasn't a secret. I mean, they really said this out loud, that a woman who uses drugs doesn't deserve the same kind of protections as a mother that other parents do. And so this really became a way to police women, particularly women of color, who may use substances during pregnancy. And this was completely unrelated to the harm the substance might cause. And what do I mean by that? There are a lot of things that people do when they're pregnant that might be not so great for the developing fetus. But only some of them lead to coercive investigation. So you may smoke when you're pregnant, you may drink when you're pregnant, you may use certain prescription drugs when you're pregnant. There are a lot of things that might be dangerous from a medical standpoint, but only certain choices are policed and punished to the same extent. And the only answer to that is racism. I mean, this is a form of policing Black women and their bodies. And so trying to think about this history, it becomes a system in which we regulate and police what we don't like. And it's really this moment in, everything I don't like is child abuse. And that's true today, when we're talking about the pandemic. Wearing a mask is child abuse. Not wearing a mask is child abuse. Vaccinating is child abuse. Not vaccinating. So, and you hear people on the news come in and trying to rile up others saying, oh, this is child abuse. And you know what? I kind of like that they're doing this because they're putting all the cards on the table. This is a political category that you're putting out there to regulate and judge other people's behavior. If wearing a mask is child abuse, everything I don't like is child abuse. And let's just put it out there, call it that way, and say this is a made up political category that we trot out to create a mass moral hysteria about something we care about that day.
My question was based on the state central registry and the amount of time that a parent's name remains in that registry, even if a case is unfounded. So for instance, if I get a case called in and subject child is 10-year-old and I have a 2-year-old in the home, my name remains in that registry until that 2-year-old child attains the age of 28. I wanted to know, would you agree with that name removed?
Thank you. So in general, I think registries are abomination. But specifically for your question, I think absolutely when a case is unfounded, these names should be removed. I also think that there should be some kind of discretion and difference between neglect cases that stem from poverty versus cases that result from physical and sexual assault and abuse. And it's also important to ask ourselves, who are we protecting with these registries and what harm are we inflicting? So, and especially in women who are low income and women of color are more likely to be working in caregiving jobs as nursing aides, as preschool aides, as preschool teachers. And so when a woman is not able to earn money because she's on this registry, who are we harming? So we are hurting her family and her income and her livelihood, her ability to access healthcare in a country where healthcare is linked to your employment. We are creating all these downstream harms for something that was unfounded and or related to poverty. And so we are punishing women again and again and again for being poor. Are we keeping anyone safer? I mean, this idea is absurd. So I absolutely think that these registries make no sense, especially when they have such a broad definition of child harm, and that we have to differentiate between different situations, all of which are not good for kids, but the response to hunger has to be significantly different than a response to severe physical abuse.
I wonder if you might, just for a couple minutes, talk about what we might learn at CFR about what we can do and how we might do better.
I think, parents know what they need, and we need to help them get what they need. And that's why I'm so impressed by CFR's advocacy model, because really working together to help parents attain what they need to get in order to be the best parents they can. And it's particularly hard in a country where there are so many barriers. And these barriers include, poverty, discrimination, racism, lack of affordable housing, and childcare. And these are really, really hard things to overcome. And having, this advocacy model where people work with individual parents to reach their own goals is incredibly valuable. We all need advocates. We all need our voices lifted up. Some people need stronger advocates than others because they face bigger hurdles. And CFR is here to really be advocates for people who are facing significant hurdles. That work is so incredibly important.
Well, I think we're all appreciative. Tiara, did you have any final thoughts?
The issues are really not being addressed, but to have these conversations really does solidify for us, the advocates who really sometimes need someone else who's outside of our circle to say, there's something wrong with this. This is not okay. And these are the ways that I think we can fix it. I am also not a very optimistic person. I've been trying to work on that. But one thing I do feel very, very rooted in is that I have a platform to do the work that I do. And I always say that I am hopefully working myself out of a job, because this cannot be life forever. So thank you so much for everything that you're doing and having the conversation with us.
Thanks so much, McCall. It's
My pleasure. It was a true pleasure. And I was so pleased to meet you.
And your
thank you
work.
for the work you do.
I think that our parent advocates and I could have spoken to McCall Ross all day and just continue to really enjoy it. As somebody who runs an agency like CFR and is trying to reach people about our client's story, I think it's tremendously important that you all were able to spend the time to hear about the history of the family regulation system. And I think for me, as a practitioner who has worked in this field more than 30 years, understanding the history was huge for me and helped me have epiphanies about why this system is so damaging and so destructive. But it also really gave me hope about the promise of models like CFR that are about holistic partnership and holistic celebration. And it made me hopeful that understanding the history can help us really reform the system that so many of our clients are stuck in.
This work brings me hope because of our clients. They give me hope because they are the ones that are working incredibly hard to keep their families together or reunite with their families.
We make a difference, and I'm hopeful that we can continue to make a difference, and perhaps even on a larger scale, where we can make a change with how some of these systems view our clients, how some of these systems treat our clients.
The hope stems from the fact that the little bit that I'm doing will help the client get to the next place that they need to be.
Because I think, again, as a social worker, if hope is lost, then I think everything is lost.
I think the most hopeful thing about holistic representation in the way that CFR does it is that it engages parents fully in the process of solving the issues that they brought to the office.
I see their dedication, and that gives me hope. And it inspires me, but it also just, it gives me confidence that things will get done in the right way.
What brings me a lot of hope is not just the work that we do serving clients day to day, but it's also the work that CFR has done trying to introduce its model and trying to introduce the way that it works to others across the country.
It improves outcomes not just for their clients, but makes the system work better for everyone.
What gives me hope is that our enormously talented lawyers and social workers and parent advocates and administrative staff can come up with really innovative solutions to very difficult problems that each client faces.
If it's even one positive story, that can be inspirational, and that can justify all of the hard work of the CFR staff and management.
Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for your support. Thank you for giving us the means to continue this work.
Thank you so much for joining us. We're so grateful for your support today.
So thank you for your attention today, and it's good to see all of you.
Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you for your support.
Without your support, we can't continue to do the work that CFR does for youth and families.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. As we hear all the time, the more you know, the better we all do. Have a great afternoon.